My child, before you move on to the next thing, before you scroll away, before your attention is pulled in another direction, I need you to stay with me for a moment. I know you were not expecting this. I know you have things to do. I know your mind is already focused on what comes next. Your day is moving quickly. Your responsibilities are waiting. Your schedule feels full. And the last thing you expected was to be interrupted. But I need you to hear this. Not because I want something from you. Not because you have failed me. Not because you have done anything wrong. I am speaking because something is changing in your life, and I do not want you to miss what is happening. There is a reason you are here right now. There is a reason these words found you. There is a reason I am asking you to slow down and listen. This is not an accident. This is not random, and it is certainly not a coincidence. My child, something has been shifting beneath the surface of your life for longer than you realize. You have felt it. You just have not been able to explain it. Something feels different. Something feels unsettled. Something feels as though it is moving just beyond your ability to see it clearly. You have noticed moments when your heart became restless for no obvious reason. You have noticed thoughts that keep returning. You have noticed a feeling that something is changing, even though you cannot yet point to what it is. That feeling is not imaginary. You are sensing something real, and that is why I am speaking now. Because what is coming cannot be understood if you continue rushing past every quiet moment. Stay with me. Do not hurry away. Not yet. There are things you need to understand first. I know you have been asking questions. Questions you may not have spoken aloud. Questions you have carried quietly. Why have certain doors closed? Why have some people become distant? Why do things that once felt familiar now feel different? Why have you felt so uncomfortable in places where you used to feel secure? Why does it seem like something is ending even though nothing has fully ended yet? You have noticed these things. You have felt them. And deep down, you know there is more happening than what your eyes can currently see. My child, I need you to resist the temptation to dismiss this moment. Do not tell yourself you will listen later. Do not tell yourself, this can wait. Do not assume that because nothing dramatic has happened, nothing important is happening. Some of the most significant changes begin quietly. They begin beneath the surface. They begin long before anyone else notices. A seed begins growing before it ever breaks through the ground. A new season begins before the weather changes. And the transformation I am bringing into your life has already started, even if you cannot fully see it yet. That is why this moment matters. Not because I want to create fear, not because I want to make you anxious, but because awareness is important. When you become aware, you stop misinterpreting what is happening. You stop assuming that every closed door is rejection. You stop believing that every delay is a denial. You stop seeing every uncomfortable transition as failure. And you begin seeing my hand at work. I know part of you feels tired. I know part of you wants simple answers. I know part of you wishes someone would just tell you exactly what comes next. But listen carefully. If I showed you everything at once, you would focus on the outcome and miss the lesson. You would focus on the destination and miss the preparation. You would focus on the blessing and overlook the transformation. That is why I am asking you to stay present. Stay here with me. Stay long enough to hear what your heart has been trying to tell you. Stay long enough to notice what has been changing. Stay long enough to recognize that you are not where you used to be. My child, you have not been forgotten. You have not been abandoned. You have not been overlooked. Even when it felt quiet, I was working. Even when it felt slow, I was moving. Even when it seemed like nothing was changing, I was preparing things you could not yet see. And now, little by little, those changes are beginning to surface. That is why I stopped you today. That is why I interrupted your routine. That is why I asked for your attention. Because something is about to change in your life. And before it does, there is something you need to understand. So stay with me. Listen carefully. Do not rush ahead. What I am about to reveal may explain more than you realize. My child, one of the hardest things about change is that you often feel it long before you understand it. You sense it before you can explain it. You notice it before you can define it. You feel its presence before you can see its shape. And that is exactly where many of you are right now. Something has been stirring inside you. Something has been shifting beneath the surface of your life. You may not have the words for it yet. You may not understand why certain emotions have been appearing. You may not understand why your heart feels restless in moments that once felt comfortable. But your spirit has been noticing what your eyes cannot yet see. I need you to understand something important. Not every uncomfortable feeling is a sign that something is wrong. Sometimes discomfort is evidence that something old no longer fits. Sometimes restlessness is the first sign that growth has already begun. Sometimes the reason you feel unsettled is because I am preparing you to leave a place, a mindset, or a season that can no longer contain what I am doing in your life. You have been wondering why things feel different lately, why conversations feel different, why certain environments affect you differently, why your desires have started changing, why things that once excited you no longer satisfy you in the same way. You thought perhaps something was wrong with you. You questioned yourself. You questioned your faith. You questioned your direction. But, my child, what if the reason things feel different is because you are changing? What if the discomfort is not evidence of loss? What if it is evidence of preparation? Think about it. A seed does not remain comfortable when it begins to grow. Growth stretches. Growth disrupts. Growth changes what once felt familiar. And many of the feelings you have been carrying are not signs that you are falling apart. They are signs that you are growing beyond where you once were. I know this season has confused you. One moment you feel hopeful. The next moment you feel uncertain. One day you feel peace. The next day you find yourself questioning everything. You have wondered why your emotions seem different, why your heart feels more sensitive, why you find yourself thinking about things you used to ignore. It is because awareness is increasing, and awareness often arrives before understanding. You are becoming aware that not everything around you is meant to remain with you. You are becoming aware that some doors are closing for a reason. You are becoming aware that some chapters are reaching their conclusion. And although part of you wants to hold on to what is familiar, another part of you knows that remaining where you are is no longer possible. That tension you feel is real. The old season is pulling in one direction. The new season is calling from another, and you are standing between them. That is why things feel different. That is why you feel the change before you can see it. My child, do not be afraid of this process. Do not mistake uncertainty for abandonment. Do not mistake transition for failure, and do not mistake discomfort for punishment. I am not punishing you. I am preparing you. I am not removing things because I want to hurt you. I am creating space for something greater than what currently exists. I know you want answers. I know you want clarity. I know you want to see exactly where I am leading you. But faith has never been about seeing the entire road. Faith is trusting me while the road is still unfolding. And right now, whether you realize it or not, the road is unfolding. You are closer to a new season than you think, closer than you realize, closer than you can currently see. That is why your spirit has been responding before your mind understands. That is why your heart has been sensing movement before your circumstances reflect it. Something is changing, my child. You have already felt it. You just have not seen it yet. But stay with me, because there is a reason certain things have been leaving your life. And what I am about to show you may explain more than you expected. My child, one of the questions that has weighed heavily on your heart is this. Why did certain people leave? Why did some relationships change? Why did connections that once seemed strong suddenly become distant? You have asked these questions quietly. You may not have spoken them aloud, but I have heard them. I have seen the confusion. I have seen the disappointment. I have seen the moments when you replayed conversations in your mind, searching for answers. Part of you wondered if you had done something wrong. Part of you blamed yourself. Part of you kept looking for a way to fix what had already begun to fade. But listen carefully. Not everyone who walks with you is meant to walk with you forever. And not every ending is a loss. Sometimes an ending is protection. Sometimes an ending is preparation. Sometimes an ending is my mercy operating in ways you do not yet understand. I know it hurt when certain people changed. I know it hurt when support disappeared. I know it hurt when relationships you valued began to drift apart. The pain was real. The disappointment was real. And I am not asking you to pretend otherwise. But I need you to see something that you could not see while you were in the middle of it. Some people were assigned to a chapter of your life, not the entire story. They were part of a season. They were part of a lesson. They were part of your growth. But they were never meant to become your destination. My child, if I had allowed everyone to remain, some of them would have kept you connected to a version of yourself that I was asking you to leave behind. Some people knew who you were, but they could not recognize who you were becoming. And when growth begins, not everyone grows with you. That is difficult to accept, because your heart naturally wants to hold on. Your heart remembers the good moments. Your heart remembers the laughter. Your heart remembers the comfort of what was familiar. But familiarity is not always destiny. Comfort is not always confirmation. And just because someone was important in one season does not mean they belong in the next one. You have been grieving some relationships longer than you realize, not because the people themselves were your future, but because they represented stability. They represented certainty. They represented something known. And when they left, uncertainty took their place. But, my child, uncertainty is often where faith begins to grow. You keep looking back and asking why things changed. Meanwhile, I am trying to help you look forward and see what is being prepared. Because the truth is this: some people left because they could not go where I am taking you. Some people left because their assignment was complete. Some people left because staying would have delayed what I am trying to build in your life. You may not understand that now. You may still wish things had ended differently. You may still hope for explanations that never came. But understand this: silence does not always mean rejection. Distance does not always mean failure. And closed relationships do not always mean something went wrong. Sometimes they simply mean a season has ended. I know there were moments when you felt lonely, moments when you felt abandoned, moments when it seemed like everyone was moving away at the same time. But I was there, I was watching, I was guiding. And even when you could not see my hand, I was protecting your future, because I care too much about what is ahead to allow everything from the past to follow you there. My child, there are blessings that require space. There are opportunities that require room. There are new relationships that cannot enter while you are still desperately holding on to old ones. That is why some things had to be released. That is why some people had to move on. That is why some connections had to change. Not because I wanted to hurt you, but because I am preparing you. And what I am preparing you for is greater than what you have lost. Stay with me. Do not let bitterness take root. Do not let disappointment close your heart, because what is coming next will help you understand why certain people could not remain. And when you see what I have been preparing behind the scenes, many things that once confused you will finally begin to make sense. My child, there is something I need you to understand about the season you have been leaving behind. Not everything that was meant for one chapter is meant for the next. Not everything that served you yesterday can serve you tomorrow. And not everything that helped you survive one season can help you thrive in the next. This is where many people struggle. They want the new season, but they want to bring everything from the old one with them. The old habits, the old fears, the old expectations, the old ways of thinking, the old wounds, the old identities. But growth does not work that way. Transformation requires transition, and transition always involves letting go. I know some of the changes in your life have felt uncomfortable. I know some of them have felt confusing. There are things you once depended on that no longer seem dependable. There are places you once felt secure that now feel restrictive. There are patterns you once accepted that now leave you feeling uneasy. You have wondered why. You have wondered what changed. My child, the answer is simpler than you think. You changed. Not completely. Not instantly, but gradually, quietly, day by day, lesson by lesson, prayer by prayer. You have been growing in ways you may not even recognize yet. And because you have been changing, the old season no longer fits the person you are becoming. Think about clothing that once fit a child. At one point it was perfect, comfortable, useful, necessary. But as the child grows, the clothing becomes restrictive. Not because the clothing is bad, not because something is wrong with it, but because growth has occurred. That is what has been happening in your life. There are things that once fit your season, things that once fit your level of understanding, things that once fit your journey, but they no longer fit where I am leading you. And that can feel unsettling, because even uncomfortable familiarity often feels safer than unknown possibility. The human heart naturally wants certainty. It wants predictability. It wants to know exactly what comes next. But faith requires something different. Faith requires trust. Trust allows you to leave what is familiar before the future becomes visible. That is exactly what you have been learning. My child, I need you to hear these words carefully. The season you are leaving behind was not a mistake. It was necessary. It taught you valuable lessons. It strengthened you. It prepared you. It helped shape your character. So do not despise it. Do not resent it. Do not look back with bitterness. Honor what that season taught you. Be grateful for how it helped you grow. But do not try to live there forever, because what once protected you may now be limiting you. What once sheltered you may now be containing you. And what once served a purpose may now be preventing you from stepping fully into what I have prepared next. That is why certain things have been shifting. That is why some doors have closed. That is why some relationships have changed. That is why your desires are evolving. Not because I have abandoned you, not because you have failed, not because you took a wrong turn, but because the season you are in cannot follow you where I am taking you. The old chapter has done its work. The old chapter has served its purpose. And now a new chapter is beginning to unfold. You may not see it clearly yet. You may not understand all the details. But your spirit already senses it. That is why you have felt the change. That is why you have felt the tension. That is why you have felt the pull toward something more. Stay with me. Do not rush ahead. And do not run back to what is familiar. Because what lies ahead is greater than what lies behind. The season you have been praying for is closer than you think. And what I am about to reveal may help you understand why this transition was necessary all along. Before we continue, my child, I want you to pause for a moment and reflect on what you have heard so far. If this message is speaking to your heart, if you believe that God is still working behind the scenes even when you cannot see it, I want you to take a simple step of faith. Type these words in the comments. I trust your timing, Lord, not because God needs to see it. He already knows your heart, but sometimes speaking your faith helps strengthen it. And as you write those words, let them become a reminder that delays do not mean denial, silence does not mean abandonment, and God's plans for your life are still unfolding. Now stay with me, because what comes next may explain why this season has been preparing you for something far greater than you realize. My child, I know there were moments when you thought I had forgotten you. I know there were days when silence felt heavier than disappointment. You prayed. You waited. You hoped. And when nothing seemed to change, you began to wonder if your prayers had somehow been lost. You watched others move forward while you remained in the same place. You watched doors open for other people while your own opportunities seemed delayed. You watched answers arrive for others while your questions remained unanswered. And if you are honest, there were moments when you asked me why. Why is this taking so long? Why does everything feel delayed? Why do I keep waiting? I heard every one of those questions. And today I want you to understand something that can change the way you see this entire season. The delay was never a denial. The silence was never rejection. And the waiting was never proof that I had abandoned you. My child, there is a difference between being ignored and being prepared. There is a difference between being denied and being developed. There is a difference between a closed door and a door that is not ready to open yet. Many times you assumed I was saying no when I was actually saying not yet. You assumed nothing was happening because nothing was visible. But some of my greatest works happen where human eyes cannot see them. A seed beneath the soil appears inactive. Yet growth is happening. Roots are forming. Strength is developing. Preparation is taking place. And much of what I have been doing in your life has looked exactly like that. Hidden, quiet, unseen. You wanted movement. I was building foundations. You wanted answers. I was building wisdom. You wanted immediate results. I was preparing lasting fruit. Had I given you everything when you first asked for it, some of those blessings would have become burdens. Some opportunities would have arrived before your heart was ready. Some doors would have opened before you possessed the strength to walk through them. And what feels like a blessing at the wrong time can become a source of pain. That is why my timing matters. Not because I enjoy making you wait, not because I want to test your patience endlessly, but because I see what you cannot see. I see the beginning and the end at the same time. I see the opportunities that are forming. I see the people who are being positioned. I see the details that must align before the next chapter can begin. And while you were focusing on the clock, I was focusing on the preparation. My child, I know waiting has stretched you. I know it has challenged your faith. There were days when you felt strong, and there were days when you felt discouraged. There were moments when you trusted completely, and moments when doubt quietly tried to enter your heart. But even then, I never stopped working. Not for a single day, not for a single moment. Even when nothing seemed to move, I was moving. Even when nothing seemed to change, I was changing things. Even when you felt forgotten, I was arranging what comes next. The enemy wanted you to believe the delay meant failure. The enemy wanted you to believe the silence meant abandonment. The enemy wanted you to lose hope before the breakthrough arrived, because discouragement often causes people to quit just before they reach what they have been praying for. Do not make that mistake. Do not allow temporary silence to rewrite eternal truth. I have not forgotten you. I have not overlooked you. I have not changed my mind about you. What I promised, I still remember. What I started, I am still completing. And what I am preparing is worth the wait. Stay with me a little longer. Trust me a little deeper. Because what feels delayed today may soon become the very reason you thank me tomorrow. One day you will look back at this season and understand that I was not withholding something from you. I was protecting something for you. And when the right moment arrives, you will see that the delay was never a denial. It was preparation for something greater than you imagined. My child, while you were focusing on what was not happening, there were things happening that you could not see. While you were watching closed doors, I was preparing new ones. While you were grieving what ended, I was arranging what would begin. While you were questioning the silence, I was working within it. This is something many people struggle to understand. They assume that if they cannot see movement, there is no movement. They assume that if circumstances remain unchanged, nothing is happening. But some of my greatest works take place in secret. Some of my most powerful preparations happen behind the scenes. Think about the roots of a tree. For a long time, nothing appears to change above the ground. To the outside observer, everything looks the same. But beneath the surface, growth is taking place. Strength is developing. Foundations are expanding. And one day, what was happening in secret becomes impossible to ignore. That is where you are right now. You have been looking at the surface. I have been working beneath it. My child, there are conversations you know nothing about that I have already influenced. There are opportunities forming that you cannot yet see. There are doors beginning to unlock. There are people being positioned. There are circumstances shifting. There are obstacles being removed. And there are answers already moving toward you. You simply have not seen them yet. That is why I need you to stop measuring my activity by what is visible. Visible things are only part of the story. The unseen is often where preparation begins. I know you have asked me for signs. I know you have asked me for confirmation. I know you have asked me to show you what comes next. But if you could see everything I am doing right now, you would realize that your situation is not as stagnant as it appears. You are not stuck. You are being prepared. You are not forgotten. You are being positioned. You are not abandoned. You are being guided. My child, there is a reason certain prayers have taken longer than expected. The blessing itself was never the only goal. The person you are becoming is part of the answer. Because what good is receiving the next season if you are not ready to carry it? What good is receiving increase if wisdom has not increased with it? What good is receiving opportunity if your character has not been strengthened enough to sustain it? I care about your future too much to rush your preparation. That is why I have been working in places you cannot see. I have been strengthening your faith, teaching your heart to trust, teaching your spirit to remain steady, teaching you to depend on me rather than circumstances. And although those lessons were not always comfortable, they have been necessary. You may not recognize how much you have grown. You may still see your weaknesses. You may still focus on your struggles, but I see the progress. I see the maturity. I see the wisdom you did not have before. I see the strength that has developed through every challenge. And I tell you this because I do not want you to underestimate what has been accomplished during this season. The waiting was not wasted. The silence was not empty. The preparation was not pointless. Every lesson mattered. Every challenge had purpose. Every delay carried meaning. Even when you could not understand it, my child, there are things I have been building in secret that are closer than you realize, closer than they appear, closer than they feel. And when the right moment arrives, what has been hidden will begin to emerge, not all at once, but enough for you to recognize my hand, enough for you to see that I was working all along, enough for you to understand that every moment of waiting had a purpose. So do not lose heart now. Do not allow discouragement to take root. Do not stop trusting simply because you cannot yet see the full picture. Continue walking with me. Continue believing. Continue trusting. Because what I have been building in secret is greater than what you currently imagine. And very soon, you will begin to see the first signs of what I have been preparing all along. My child, now that you understand that I have been working behind the scenes, there is something else you need to hear. Do not sabotage what is about to arrive. I say this with love. I say this with care. I say this because many people spend years praying for something, only to damage it when it finally appears. Not because they intended to, not because they were rebellious, but because fear spoke louder than faith. I know you have been hurt before. I know disappointment has left scars. I know there were seasons when things did not happen the way you expected. There were prayers that seemed unanswered. There were opportunities that disappeared. There were moments when trust felt difficult. And because of those experiences, part of you has learned to expect disappointment before hope. Part of you prepares for failure before success. Part of you braces for loss before receiving blessing. That response is understandable, but it is not where I want you to remain. My child, fear has a way of convincing people to run from the very things they prayed for. Fear whispers that things are too good to be true. Fear tells you to expect the worst. Fear tells you to protect yourself by assuming disappointment before it happens. But fear cannot guide you into the future I have prepared. Only trust can do that. I need you to be careful during this season. Not careful of me. Not careful of my plans. But careful of the voices that try to speak over my promises. There will be moments when doubt tries to return. Moments when overthinking tries to take control. Moments when old fears try to convince you that nothing is really changing. When those moments come, remember what I have already shown you. Remember the doors that have closed. Remember the lessons you have learned. Remember the growth that has taken place. Remember the ways I have carried you through seasons you once thought would break you. You did not come this far by accident. You did not survive all of those challenges alone. And I did not bring you this far just to leave you standing at the edge of your breakthrough. My child, one of the greatest dangers in a season of transition is returning to old patterns, returning to old fears, returning to old thinking, returning to the habits that kept you small. You cannot enter a new season while continually agreeing with old limitations. You cannot move forward while constantly looking backward. You cannot embrace what I am doing while clinging to what I have already asked you to release. That is why I need you to stay alert. Stay focused. Stay connected to me. Not through striving, not through anxiety, not through trying to control every outcome, but through trust. Simple trust, daily trust, faithful trust. You do not need to know every detail. You do not need to understand every step. You do not need to see the entire picture. You only need to continue walking with me. The enemy would love for you to become discouraged now. The enemy would love for you to lose patience now. The enemy would love for you to talk yourself out of believing right before the answer begins to appear. Do not give doubt that power. Do not allow fear to write the ending of a story I am still writing. My child, something is changing. You have felt it. You have sensed it. You have heard my voice speaking through this entire message. So when uncertainty appears, choose trust. When fear appears, choose faith. When confusion appears, choose to remain close to me. Because what is approaching your life deserves a prepared heart. And the best way to prepare is not through worry. It is through trust. Stay with me. Stay steady. Stay faithful. Because the first signs of what I have been building in secret are closer now than they have ever been before. My child, many people keep asking for a sign while overlooking the signs I have already given them. They expect something dramatic, something unmistakable, something impossible to ignore. Yet often my signs begin quietly. They appear in small ways, subtle ways, ways that are easy to dismiss if you are not paying attention. That is why I want you to look carefully at what has been happening around you, because the evidence of change may already be closer than you think. Have you noticed that certain things no longer hold the same power over you? Things that once consumed your thoughts now seem less important. Things that once controlled your emotions no longer affect you in the same way. That is a sign. Growth has been taking place. Have you noticed a new desire for peace, a new desire for clarity, a new desire to protect your time, your energy, and your focus? That is a sign. Your priorities are changing. Your heart is changing. Your perspective is changing. Have you noticed that some doors have closed even when you tried to keep them open? At the time, it felt frustrating. At the time, it felt disappointing. But now you are beginning to understand that some of those closed doors were actually acts of protection. That is a sign. I have been guiding your steps even when you could not recognize my hand. My child, another sign is the growing discomfort you have felt toward things that once seemed acceptable. Conversations that once felt normal now leave you feeling empty. Environments that once felt comfortable now leave you feeling restless. Patterns that once seemed harmless now feel out of place. Why? Because you are not the same person you used to be. And what once matched your season no longer matches your calling. That discomfort is not punishment. It is direction. It is your spirit recognizing that change has already begun. You have also experienced moments of unexpected peace. Moments when everything around you seemed uncertain, yet something inside you remained calm. You could not explain it. You could not understand it, but you felt it. That peace was not accidental. It was my presence reminding you that I am still in control, even when circumstances appear unclear, even when answers seem delayed, even when the future remains hidden. My child, the signs are already around you. Not because everything has arrived, not because the journey is finished, but because preparation is giving way to movement. The season of waiting is beginning to reveal its purpose. Little by little, step by step, moment by moment. And if you pay attention, you will begin to see what you could not see before. You will recognize that I have been leading you all along. You will recognize that the changes were never random. You will recognize that every closed door, every lesson, every delay, and every challenge has been moving you toward something greater. Stay alert. Stay grateful. Stay close to me, because what you have been sensing is real, and the next season is closer now than ever before. My child, as this message comes to an end, I want you to remember one thing above all else. You are closer than you think, closer than your fears tell you, closer than your doubts suggest, closer than your circumstances appear to indicate. For so long you have measured your progress by what you could see. You looked at your surroundings. You looked at your challenges. You looked at the doors that had not opened yet. And because of what you saw, you sometimes believed nothing was changing. But now you know better. You know that I have been working beneath the surface. You know that preparation has been taking place. You know that every lesson, every delay, every closed door, and every difficult season has been serving a purpose. Nothing was wasted. Not your tears, not your prayers, not your waiting, not your struggles. I have seen every moment. I have counted every prayer. I have heard every cry that nobody else knew about. Even during the nights when you felt alone. Even during the moments when you wondered if anyone understood. Even during the seasons when you questioned whether anything would ever change. I was there. I never left. I never stopped listening. And I never stopped working. My child, the future I am leading you toward is not built upon your perfection. It is built upon my faithfulness. You do not have to have every answer. You do not have to understand every detail. You do not have to know exactly how everything will unfold. You only need to continue trusting me, step by step, day by day, prayer by prayer, because the same God who carried you through every previous season will carry you through the next one as well. Do not look back with regret. Do not look around with fear. Look forward with faith. The chapter behind you is finished. The lessons remain. The wisdom remains. The growth remains. But the season itself is ending. A new season is beginning. And although you cannot see all of it yet, you are already standing at its edge. That restless feeling you have carried? It was preparation. That stretching you experienced? It was preparation. That waiting season that felt endless? It was preparation. You were never standing still. You were being positioned. You were being strengthened. You were being prepared for what comes next. My child, hear me clearly. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are not abandoned. You are not overlooked. You are loved. You are guided. You are protected. And you are moving into a season that will reveal why this journey had to unfold the way it did. So hold on to your faith. Hold on to your peace. Hold on to my promises. Because what I have begun in your life, I will continue. And what I have prepared for you is closer than you think. If this message spoke directly to your heart today, take a moment right now and type, Amen. Let that simple word be your declaration of faith. A declaration that you trust God even when you cannot see the whole picture. A declaration that you believe He is still working behind the scenes. And a declaration that your next season is already beginning. If this message encouraged you, share it with someone who may be struggling through a season of waiting, uncertainty, or discouragement. You never know who needs this reminder today. And if you enjoy receiving these messages of faith, hope, and encouragement, be sure to subscribe and join our growing community. There are many more messages ahead designed to strengthen your faith and remind you that God is always at work, even in the seasons when it feels quiet. Thank you for spending this time with us. May God's peace guide your heart, strengthen your faith, and fill your life with hope. And remember, my child, the waiting was not wasted, the delay was not denial, and your next season is closer than you think. Amen.